If you're someone that's thinking about buying or selling a home in 2025, some of the questions you're probably curious about are, what are home inventory levels going to look like? Are home prices going to continue to increase like they have been? And is it a buyer or seller's market? Well, make sure to stick around to the end because we're going to answer all of these questions, but just jumping right into it, what are we seeing so far in the first 2 months of the year? Well, the first 2 months, we're seeing inventory levels actually increase, so that's a positive sign if you're a buyer. We're also seeing home prices continue to increase as well, so unfortunately, that's the pro and the con there, but we're seeing demand still remain in the market. There was a recent survey by NerdWallet that showed that 15% of people are hoping to purchase a home in 2025. And now 15% may not sound like a lot, but if we look at some previous years, 11% is the highest we've reached. So this is about a 36% increase. And when you look at it from that standpoint, that 15% is actually something to note. So let's go ahead and talk about what the Northern Kentucky market is going to be looking like and what we've seen so far. Hey everybody, I'm Cameron with the Barron's team, your Northern Kentucky and Greater Cincinnati real estate agents. And if you find this type of content helpful, make sure to hit the like button and click subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you're someone that's thinking about entering the market in 2025, it's more important than ever to know what's going on a hyper-local level, not just nationwide. I have our contact information on the screen here. The Barron's team is always happy to provide completely free, no obligation buyer and seller consultations. So whether you're thinking about making a move in 6 days, 6 months, or 6 years, we're always happy to help. With that said, let's jump into the video. So let's start off on more of a national level and see where we've been the past 2 months, and then we'll zone in specifically on Northern Kentucky. So starting off, there were 1.18 million homes for sale at the end of January, which is an increase of 3.5% from December, and more importantly, a 17% increase from January of last year. So that survey from NerdWallet that I spoke about at the beginning, about 15% of people wanting to buy a home, I think we're already starting to see a reflection of that by home sales increasing nationwide 17%. Another note here is the median price of a home sale in January was $396,900, up 4.8% from the year before, and the highest price ever for the month of January. So again, this is nationwide. It's going to be a little lower here in Northern Kentucky, but that is a trend we're seeing across the board is home prices are up in, again, the highest price ever for a month of January. And then finally here, sales price or sales of previously owned homes fell 4.9% for the month in January, but were 2% higher than January of 2024. So sales of previously owned homes. So keep in mind, there's previously owned homes and new build homes. So new build homes are also starting to fill that, to funnel in and help fill that void of buyer demand that we have there. So overall, what are we seeing? Sales increasing, homes increasing, and let's take a look and see how that looks specifically here in Northern Kentucky now. All right, now what's more important than the national level is the local level here in Northern Kentucky. It's fun to know what's going on nationally, and that's primarily what the news outlets are talking about. So they're not necessarily being disingenuous, but just because they're talking about Florida, New York, Texas, California, that does not mean that's what's going on here in Northern Kentucky. Now, right now, we are going to see things are generally trending in the same direction, but a lot of other areas have lots of ups and downs, and we're more like the kiddie coaster, little bits ups and downs, so we don't see as much volatility. But let's dive into it. So we have January stats. February hasn't been released yet. January, if we compare 2024 to 2025, so 2024 is on the right hand here, 2025 is on the left hand. The median sold price, this to me is the most wild stat on this whole thing here, is this is January specifically, so keep in mind this isn't like all across the whole year. $255,000 was the median sold price for January of last year, and it is now $300,000. That is almost an 18% increase. So when I'm constantly preaching, we're not going to see double-digit appreciation every year. I don't think that this is what we're going to see the trend throughout the year, so I wouldn't get too excited if you're a homeowner, but this is a good start of where the year, a good indicator of where the year might be going as far as, is it a buyer or seller's market? Well, home prices year over year are definitely increasing. Then we have closed sales. Now, this one hasn't changed too much, but if we recall here in Northern Kentucky, last year's winter was a little more mild than what we've been seeing so far, especially if you have kids in school. You've noticed all of these snow days, NTI days. There's been a lot with weather. So The fact that home prices are up, and you're going to see some of these other numbers up as well, and home sales have stayed about the same. I mean, it's 0.5% up. It's 2 sales difference, so it's not really different. But with the weather that we've had and home sales still being up, to me, this is a good sign, because one of the factors depends on where you're at in the country. But if you're somewhere that does experience snow and ice, the snow and ice definitely can deter people from wanting to enter the market. Here's another stat here. Average days on market, 39 last year, 41 this year. Again, 2 days, somewhat of a negligible difference. We'll see if that trends, though. It's definitely something we'll pay attention to. And then some other positive numbers for potential home buyers. New listings and active listings are both up. New listings are up 7.1%, and active listings, so new listings are new listings hitting the market, and active listings are including the ones that have been sitting there for a little bit. So that's up 16.2%. We were at 760 and now we're at 883. Well, in January, 883. That's a good sign. So we're still seeing people needing to sell their homes and homes hitting the market. But what probably kept these closed sales down was maybe December was a little slower, because that's usually when homes are closing in January, but also is the weather. So people are like, well, I still need to sell my home. And buyers are like, well, I'm going to wait. I don't want to go see homes in the ice and snow. So this active listings increasing is a good sign if you're looking at buying a home, which again, that 15% from the NerdWallet survey is showing that more people are wanting to enter the market. And then if we look at pending sales, that is down. But again, I think this all kind of goes hand in hand. I feel pretty confident this pending sales is going to increase in February, March, April as we get into the spring market and the weather starts to improve. Overall total sales volume, I don't really pay too much attention to that, because that generally goes up anyway if home sales or if home prices are going up, because it's the overall volume of home sales added together. And then inventory, this has shifted a little bit up. Again, this is the number that shows us whether we're in a buyer or seller market. The closer we get to 4, 5, 6 months, we're starting to favor buyers versus sellers. So we're still well into a seller's market, but a lot of this data to me is a very good indication if you're thinking about buying a home in 2025. Something else I like to show you all every once in a while, at least once a month, is the days on market and the sold to list price ratios by market time. Basically, this is depending on how long a home's been on the market, what's it going to actually sell for compared to what it's listed at. And to me, this is a really important number if you're looking at buying or selling, but let's talk about the buying side of things. If you're thinking about putting in an offer on a home, I get this question all the time. I just had it on Friday, which was we were writing an offer and they're like, well, how much do you think they'll take? Or how low do you think they'll go? It's well, that's always a tough thing to know, but I can show you the data. And this home has been on the market 1 day, first day on market. And what we can see here is 0 to 30 days out of the listings. This is year to date, what's sold. About 61% of the homes that have sold in the first 30 days. And out of those, we have the sales price to list price. That means what it's listed at now versus what it's sold at. And then we have the original list price. So wherever they started at, and then maybe they did some reductions to get to that sales price. So these are pretty darn close. But what this is showing me is I can't tell you what a home will sell for, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer. But what I can say is that compared to their original price, if they sold in the first 30 days, on average, it was about 98.5%. And whatever it's listed at this moment, it's about 99%. So if you want to, and then we're talking even more specifically, it was the first day on market, is we can definitely do whatever you're going to feel comfortable with, but I do want to show you what the data says. So does that mean that this home will sell for 99% of list price? No, it does not. But in the first 30 days, statistically it will. So if you don't want to pay that and you want to wait, well, this is what happens when you wait for the 31 to 60 days. Now, there's a whole lot more wiggle room that happens. And then if you wait until about 3 months, 2 to 3 months, 3 months plus, you're going to see, of course, more and more, which that just makes sense. It's common sense. But it is good to know, because I know buyers are always wondering that, like, how much will they take off the price, or can we kind of come in a little bit lower? Again, we can always do those things if it's what you feel comfortable with. But I do want to show you the data so you have realistic expectations. This is also good if you're thinking about selling, is what should you expect? Am I going to expect to get in a bidding war and get 102% of list price? Well, on average, no, you're not. But if you're priced right, in good condition, it looks like you're still going to get pretty darn close to list price. And these prices right here, just so you know, this is definitely considered favoring sellers when you're getting about 99% of list price. All right, I hope you found this information helpful. And if you're someone that's thinking about entering the market as a buyer or seller in 2025, and you want a copy of our free home buying and home selling guides, drop the word guide in the comments below and we'll send you the link to download that completely free. And as always, if you're thinking about making a move in 6 days, 6 months, or 6 years from now, the Barron's team is always happy to help. I have our contact information on the screen here and more ways you can reach out to us in the details below. And we look forward to talking to you soon.